Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ventures Podcast. This is an episode that I wish I had when I was just starting my entrepreneurial endeavors in my early 20s. Even today, I need to go back and listen to this because my guests, Laura Younger and Linda Olson, are experienced finance people, wealth management, investors. They coach entrepreneurs. They have an immense amount of wisdom that they share in this episode as we talk about the importance of people, of culture, of avoiding burnout, of knowing yourself, of setting up the right communication styles and vibes and rhythms with your team and yourself so that you can flourish, so that you can build a successful business. And I may not have been able to listen to this when I was in my early 20s, but for those of you who are in any walk of life, in any stage in your journey, I would highly commend that you think about these aspects, these people aspects in this episode carefully as you plan how you're going to go about your own life and as you're building your ventures, and for those of you who are investors, how you're thinking about investing in the teams that can go the distance. So if you're watching this episode, you can also listen anywhere that you get your podcasts. You can just search for Ventures. And if you're listening, you can also visit wclittle.com, and there you'll see more extensive show notes to the different things that we talk about today. So with that, please enjoy this episode with Linda Olson and Laura Younger. Laura, Linda, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Will. We're so grateful to be here.
Yes, excited to be a part of the podcast. Thank you.
I am, first of all, the two of you are two of my most favorite humans in the world out there. And the stories that the two of you have with regard to how your journeys have taken you to not only learn about the entrepreneurial space and investing space, but specifically the care for not only the teams that you work with, but the entrepreneurs that you invest in. That is a lot of, I have a lot of questions, and the listeners have a lot of questions about that. I think the two of you are perfectly positioned to have a discussion about this. So would we just start, Linda, would you mind just telling us a little bit about your background and your journey thus far?
Sure. So my background's I've been in the investment world. I started at Russell, did asset allocation, manager selection, big picture, and then really was interested in investing in small cap stocks. So I studied got my CFA, became a mutual fund manager. Really, it's super interesting, So I did all the analytical work. What companies were taking market share? Why were they taking market share? Why would they win? And then after many years of doing that, went into wealth management. Really wanted to help individuals. I liked the analytical part, but really wanted to work one-on-one with individuals. And so in the Seattle area, a lot of new wealth was being created. So was able to work with a lot of people that had new wealth, and so help them to invest wisely. And then at the same time, I was involved with a lot of the angel funds there because, I had an analytical background. And so started angel investing first through funds and then as an individual. And one of the things that I found is that from my analytical side is I could analyze a company and we had a lot of smart angels in the room, right? And yes, this company has a good idea. The market's large. They can take market share. And the companies would launch and they would either not be as good as they could have been, or they would fail. And a lot of it was because of the people part and so I just thought, there's really this need for people to learn how to lead themselves well, lead others well, really have the leadership team come together strongly. And so that's really what led me and my husband, who's a longtime Microsoft tech guy, and into coaching. And we especially have a heart for early stage companies because leaders, they're going to have so much impact in the world. They're going to lead other leaders, and it's super exciting to see these leaders grow and impact other people for good in the world. So that's a bit about my story.
Amazing. Welcome. Laura.
Yes, thank you. So my background is varied, but mostly in financial services. I spent a lot of time in corporate America, working for the big banks. I worked in the headquarters of Bank of America, Wachovia, which is now Wells Fargo. Also worked for Bank of Montreal out of Chicago, and really working in the investment part of the organization, and working in the areas around, innovation and growth with investments.
Mm.
And I have found that, really the people part of investing, whether it's investing in a mutual fund or private equity or alternative type of investment, is really important. It's always been important in the due diligence process, regardless of what type of investment it is. And so I did move out of the more traditional corporate world about 7 years ago when I started my own business and launched out into consulting and working with entrepreneurs. Becoming an entrepreneur myself, I learned a lot about the differences between working in a very structured type of corporate environment versus going out on your own, and all the things that you need to do in order to be successful. And I've worked with entrepreneurs in various industries. But the one thing that I found the most important thing in working with entrepreneurs and having them be successful is for that entrepreneur to have that passion for what they're doing, and to also understand all the things that it takes in order to run your own business, which is a lot. When you're coming from an environment where you have a lot of resources that you have available at your fingertips, and then all of a sudden you're out on your own and you're starting out on your own, and you have to be able to do everything, and it's really difficult to do that as an entrepreneur, because typically we're really good at a few things but not at everything. And being able to laser focus in on the things that you're really good at is important, to be able to understand who you are, what you're really good at, and then building a team around you that are really good at the things you're not necessarily the best at, so you can build something together, and that will help the business as it as you want it to grow. So yeah, um, my experience really in that corporate world onto the entrepreneurial world, I found it to be just a leap of faith in
Mhm.
many ways, and that's what we see with entrepreneurs. We see that with the entrepreneurs at Prota that we talk to every day, that everybody's taking that leap of faith into, like,
Mhm.
I have this idea, I want it to work, but how do I make that happen? And it does not happen without engaging with people that are diverse and that have, complementary strengths
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
what you're trying to do.
So the audience, but a majority of the audience are early stage entrepreneurs. They either are pre-idea entrepreneurs, idea stage, friends and family stage, pre-seed, seed extension, Series A. But the number of funding rounds before a Series A has sort of multiplied over the years, which is why I kind of laugh. Um, and a lot of the questions that we get, that I know that all three of us get, are around: how do I form and communicate with and rally a team? And we've talked, even in both your intros, both with coaching and with working with founders and consulting with founders, the communication and the setup and the people aspects, which I agree is so fundamental, and the reason why a lot of startups don't make it is because that breaks down. Would you mind just sharing principally how you would, what advice you have for those that are at the earliest stages, or maybe a little bit into it, and don't really love the team and communication dynamic that they have set up? Linda, you want to go first?
Sure. So I think that the most important thing, and I know it's hard as an entrepreneur, and you're trying to do so many things, but it's really important to take some time to be self-reflective.
Mm,
Like, what is my why?
mm,
Because when the going gets tough, it's your why that's going to give you that passion and that yeah, the reason to keep going. Because yeah, we all know it's tough to start a company and be successful. And so when we're doing our coaching, we really start with the individual leaders, and we start with your personal mission or your personal why.
Mm.
your personal vision. Where do you want to go as an individual before you even get to the organizations? And what are your values? And so when you've done that self-reflective work, it just gives you a better foundation for yourself. And then when all the leaders and the team do it and come together, you've got so much better communication when it comes to communication, because everybody's thought about it. Um,
Mm.
and people don't get, I mean, we see a lot of things that can be stressful, or is, if you haven't done this work, you don't know what to say yes to and what to say no to. And that's stressful, right? Because you're going to say yes to, I mean, you're an entrepreneur, so like there's lots of shiny objects. Yeah, yes, 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 ball. um, it's hard to say no to things, but when you've prioritized what the best things are, it gives you just this sense of clarity. And then back to communication, I think when everybody's done it, I've just seen communication so much better.
Good.
Yes, I totally agree about, aligning with the visions with a company and the mission. That's so important to make sure that that is in place, because that really is what is going to drive the success of the company. But I also think that it's a having a good amount of people that have different ideas, so you can challenge each other, is really important. Because if you get a lot of people together, let's say you're forming your executive team, it's you and a co-founder, and maybe you're bringing in one other person, maybe a technical person, you're getting your operation agreement together, and it's like, okay, well, who's running the show? You have to figure all that out. If you bring in too many people that are too similar to you, I mean, I feel as if, I mean, I've seen that that can be not so great as far as making the best decisions for the company, because you want to have differing ideas, differing thoughts that are coming in, so you're not missing anything. And so a good amount of disagreement and a challenge on ideas is a really good idea in the beginning, as long as you have a way to be able to get to the agreement that you want to get to. So you don't want to just be disagreeing all the time just because you have different opinions, but it's more like you're bringing in a different perspective into what is happening with the company, so you can not miss out on maybe certain things that you may not be thinking about if you just attract the people to you to be on your executive team that are exactly like you. It's much better to have a team around you that can bring the different perspectives to the team, and be able to move forward from there.
So what I'm hearing fundamentally from the both of you is, number one, and which I love these two aspects. Number one, setting a vision and a mission so that so that you all know where you're running toward. Uh, that facilitates communication, because you always can come back to the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Well, here's our values, here's our purpose, here's the goals that we're heading after, and ultimately the vision. All that encompassing a vision. And from the start, Laura, yes, this is a big problem, is that if you're not deliberate from the very beginning about inviting a diversity, all kinds of flavors of diversity, cognitive
Mm.
background, ethnic, geography, now, especially as everybody's building remote companies, those perspectives allow the type of company, and that can be successful. And the numbers don't lie. It's clear that all flavors of diversity for companies that are growing tend to be the most successful. So where do we go here? Let's do some troubleshooting, because I know I'm putting myself in the position of a lot of the founders who may be listening, and they didn't quite do it. They didn't quite nail the mission. They don't have that really clear vision to rally everybody behind, and maybe the diversity of thought and mind meld isn't quite there. What do you do about it, Linda?
Well, I mean, that's why kind of we do is the coaching is, I think that, I mean, it's great to read books and on leadership and, all that, and learn and stuff, but you have to do the work inside. I mean, everybody's got gifts and talents and a purpose, right? But it's inside you. And so you really have to spend the time to do that deep work on and for yourself. I would say that, because that's the beginning of it. You just can't. I don't can't really create the culture you want if you haven't done that work for yourself. It's because
Mm,
it's not going to come to you through a consultant or words on the wall. Uh,
mm,
it has to really come from inside you. Um, yeah, and then finding other people that share your mission, and have the passion for it, because somebody might be really passionate about, um, you know, the eco or the Earth's ecosystem or healthy foods, and somebody else might be passionate about cybersecurity, and protecting people from bad guys. And so you find the people that share that, and then, like Laura said, is bring people with diverse experiences and backgrounds, because you just get so much of a richer input.
mm.
But you want people that share that meaning with you. That's yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, as founders, what I have seen with so many founders, including myself, is that you're really good at something, right? You're really good at whatever it is that you're really good at. And that's why you have become a founder. That's why you have started your own company. But you're not really good at everything. And being vulnerable and allowing yourself to say, it's okay that I don't know how to do everything as I'm trying to build my company and run my company and grow my company, and asking for help and eliciting, feedback from people in your network, bringing others in around you that are really, really good at doing things that you're not so good at is probably the key to success. You know, um, because if you're a founder and you're a go-getter and you're going out and trying to do something, you feel like almost like you can do it all by yourself. I can do it, I've got some traction, I have some success. But if you really want to get to the next level of growth, you're gonna have to be able to build out your team. You're gonna have to be able to build out people that are really skilled at doing things that, again, that maybe necessarily you're not so good at, but that's okay. I mean, and being able to relinquish a lot of control is also something that can be challenging and difficult for founders, because you've done it, you bootstrapped it, you've done it yourself, like it's your baby. You do it day in and day out, you've sunk your teeth into it. So being able to trust other people to come in and be a part of what you're doing can be a difficult thing. And then that's all about people too, right? Like having that trust and being able to build that team around you or with you, not really around you, but with you,
Right.
to
Right.
be able to take you where you want to go. And I feel like, especially with, women and female entrepreneurs, we do see this a lot, where the confidence to be able to say, I don't know everything, and to be able to go out and ask for help can be a little bit more difficult, because typically, we're feeling like we can do it all as women, and nobody can do it all. Nobody can do it all. And I think it's really important to be able to recognize that and say that's okay, and to go out to your network, or wherever you're going to go, to find really talented, amazing people that will be in line with your vision, to be a part of your team and to take it forward.
I'll just add on to that, because I think it's so important, is that um, you're the founder, and you kind of you start out kind of doing it all, right? But I think it is really important to mm, be humble enough to say, I can't do it all. I'm never going to really grow this company if I try to do it all and micromanage. So what are my strengths, and really shine in those areas of strength, and then find other people that shine in other areas, and come together as a team.
So the both of you have extensive experience in finance, in investing, and in coaching and working with entrepreneurs. There's a lot going on in the world right now. There's 1,000 different topics we could bring up, but I'm curious, for the two of you, what are the questions? What are the topics? What are the problems? What are the things right now, based on all your experience, where your mind goes, that you feel like entrepreneurs should be, in other words, invite the audience in, because I'm genuinely curious myself, to what are the questions, what are the things that you're thinking about today that we can think about with you.
Yeah, I'll take that. I mean, I feel that as a society right now, we are coming out of a really hard time,
Mm,
right? We've been in this pandemic, we've been sequestered, we have not been able to do a lot of the things that we used to do that we took for granted in the past. And one of the things that I have found, not only personally, but with a lot of founders that I work with and entrepreneurs that I work with, is just that the human connection and how important the human connection is to flourishing. And
mm,
not only flourishing as a person in your personal life, but also for your business. And technology is amazing, and we need technology, and technology can make things better, and automating and all the wonderful things we can do through technology, including what we're doing today. Because I mean, would I prefer to be with Will, in the mountains, and Linda in person? Yes, I absolutely would. But here we are, and this is all working, and it's wonderful. But the reality is that that human connection is just so important. And I myself have recognized. I mean, I always thought it was important, but now I
mm,
know it's
mm.
important because without it, you cannot be as successful, I don't think, without that human connection. And I think that as an entrepreneur and as a founder, and you're building your product or service or whatever it is that you're doing, that you need to be thinking about the user, the end person, the client, whoever it is that you are ultimately trying to help, or whatever problem you're ultimately trying to solve. It's not just technology. It's not just coding. It's not just whatever it is. It's that person or people
Mm.
at the end of the chain that are actually implementing, using, you know, being happy about the services that you're providing, and that cannot be lost in the process. To make sure that you're always thinking about what's happening at the other end, and where is that connection from a very human standpoint versus like money, technology, all that. It all comes back to we're all humans and we need that connection.
Mm.
Yes, I completely agree. I was thinking of a couple of things. One is and this gets back to the mission. One of the questions we ask when we're working with clients is, what do you want your legacy to be? And some people think, oh, it's a big pot of money that I give away when I die. And it's like, no, every day you're creating your legacy by the lives that you touch. And, so be intentional about that. Um, and how we define it is, how do you want to impact the world and others in ways that, in good ways and important ways that extend beyond you? So really, how do you want to do good in the lives of other people? And it's just so joyful and rewarding to live your life around that. And then another question we ask is, what is success to you? Because, our world defines success often in just monetary terms, and you run after that and you burn out and your relationships are shattered. And, so think about success more broadly than just money. I mean, we're investors, right? So the money part is good and fine too, but success is way broader than just money. So those are some of the things I think about. And in a world that's very distracting, stay focused on the things that are most important, you know?
Yeah, the if I were to honest with myself, if it were me 2 decades ago listening, I would not have ears to hear what the both of you just said. I would have
Mhm.
probably said, "Oh yeah, yeah, the people stuff." I want to code, right?
Right, right,
I
right.
want to execute the marketing. I want to get a bunch of people in here. I would say the last 20 years has been a slow but steady lesson that the people, the vision, and everything that the two of you just said are have become increasingly important in the relative scale in entrepreneurship. And what I mean by that is, and I probably the next 2 decades, I will learn this more and more. What I mean by that is how the experience and the communication, the vibe and the treatment of people to be helpful, to have the multifaceted way of having that connection. That's where everything happens. If you think about even what drives human behavior anyway, people want the trust, they want that security, they want that excitement, they want an adventure, they want to know that it's going to be optimized and orderly. Like depending on different people's personalities, they like different aspects of that, but you don't really figure that out unless you pay proper attention to all of the people aspects that we've been talking about. So I think a couple decades in this world, I now have more ears, although it's a journey. I'm learning as Laura and I are working very deeply in Prota. She has a front row seat into this as a learning experience for me. But I am learning, and I would invite the listeners, because I know many of the listeners are in their teens and 20s and may not fully understand what we're talking about. But I know with all three of us that it comes from experience after experience after experience of doing it the wrong way, or seeing it done the wrong way, or feeling it. And so for, let's say, the 20-year-old listening in, could you, in whatever way that you've felt or works with people in their late teens or early 20s, what are we really trying to get at here? Like, is there anything you'd add to what I just said in terms of sort of driving this point home?
I'll just add one thing. I would say all of us and everybody in Prota really wants all these leaders to be the best they can be, right? What is the best you can be? And it's multifaceted. And I would say that, for us on this podcast, have been around a few more years than the 20-year-olds. We've seen a lot of people fail, right? We've seen a lot of people work themselves to death. We've seen them have broken relationships. We've seen them look back and say, wow, I wish I would have done this differently. So there's kind of the bad and the good. The bad is we don't want you to make mistakes, that you will regret at some point. And the good is we really want you to be the best you can be in all areas of your life.
Yeah, and I would say to, that generation, being a little bit further along, is that obviously that human connection is important, and being able to, when you're thinking about, what you're doing, what you're building, what you want to be, having that cause in mind of like why you're doing it, right? And is it for money? Because if it's for money, it's like, okay, well, all right, you'll probably get your money, but will you be happy? And will that be something that you're going to feel really good about, ultimately? Or are you following your dreams? Are you following what is really inside of you that is going to make the world better? That is going to be something that is, is kindness, that is putting something great out to the universe. And as a matter of fact, along the way, you're going to make money. Like, what is the better? Like for me, I'm like that's a no brainer. Like, do you want to just go make money, or do you want to do something you love to do? And then you're going to be successful in that, and then the money will come, on top of that. I think that that's really important, to make sure that you don't find yourself in positions where you're doing something and then you're not happy, in doing it. And of course, work is work, and play is play. But if you can get it right, work, it will be play, and that you're going to love what you're doing, and at the same time doing something better for the world.
Actually, so Will, maybe we can ask a question of you.
Sure.
So I was talking with Laura the other day, and we're talking about Prota's values, the GEEK values. And one of the things I really appreciate is the fact that you have been really intentional about developing your mission, vision, and values. And so the values are GEEK. And so we were talking about that, and Laura said, gosh, when I go out and tell people about these are Prota's values, they say, oh, I want to be part of that. So maybe you could tell us how you came up with the GEEK values.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm happy to answer. I don't often get the answers directed my way, so I'm happy to talk. I've been heavily impacted in my career the last 20, 30 years now in this game by Jim Collins. Jim Collins wrote Good to Great, Built to Last, Beyond Entrepreneurship. More recently, he released Beyond Entrepreneurship 2.0. And I like how he frames vision. He frames vision in terms of your three things: your core values and beliefs, your purpose, and your current mission, the current 10, 15, 20 year, with a specific goal in mind that's going to be really hard to hit, but you can probably hit it. So with Prota, we've made it realize, we need to get crystal clear about those three things. And we had a huge handbook, which hundreds of people have read and really appreciated, but it had, I think, 2 pages of values and beliefs. And it was hard to both stack rank and have a meme to encapsulate what our core values and beliefs are. And so when you say geek, it was actually a whole year-long process of distilling all those core values to generosity, empathy, excellence, and kindness. And that's where the GEEK come from. And all of our talking points around what we believe and what we value can stem from those 4 words. And yes, we're geeks.
Excellent. Well, and just on the Jim Collins too, this might be interesting to some of the, the people that are just starting their path. In that Good to Great, they did a lot of work to figure out what was the differentiator between the companies that were really great, right? And they spent this time figuring out what the mission, vision, values are, communicating that well, not just once, but it comes from the heart, and you communicate it over and over and over again, and you hire to that. And now this is the part that I think might be interesting to some of the young entrepreneurs is those companies earned on average over 7 times the regular stock market. So it's like there was you can't promise, that those kind of returns, but these companies significantly outperformed the other companies in financial performance as well.
Very cool. So one of the last topics that I'd love to touch on, because I'm hearing it, especially a couple years into this pandemic, I'm hearing it over and over and over again, and that's the topic of burnout. I had the fortunate opportunity in my mid to late 20s, or kind of like in my mid 20s, I had a number of people in their 70s pull me aside. And I think I've shared this once or twice on the show before, but they pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Will, you're newly married. You got a kid, couple kids. You're building businesses. You're trying to finish a PhD. You got a million things going on. I've worked with people like you and have seen them coming into their late 20s completely burn out, and they flame out, and it leads to all kinds of mental health problems, all kinds of relational issues, et cetera, et cetera." And they said, "Would you be interested in being coached? Because I might be able to help you in your late 20s not do what everybody else has done," which was a very compelling pitch for me as a 26-year-old, thinking that I could go out there and idealistically help the world with all of my 26-year-old ideas. And it was the 26 to 30-year-old, for me personally, those years of being coached by people in their 70s was so valuable. And thankfully, although I came very, very, very close multiple times, it's not been an easy journey. I think because of that coaching, I was able to learn from thousands of other people who have thoroughly, thoroughly burned out and not get that burnt out. But what would you say to the people who are feeling it in the pandemic? They're feeling it in their day job. They're feeling it in their business that they're trying to start, and they feel like they're burning out and they're losing purpose and they're having all kinds of problems. What words of wisdom or advice would you have for them?
One of the things I would say is that people tend to think about balance in their lives and say, "I need more balance. I need more balance." Well, there's no such thing as balance, okay? Because because things are always going to be more a priority and not a priority, and you're going to come in and out of what's more important depending on what's happening in your life. And so I think that if we can just like take that word balance and like throw it out and say that that does not exist, and more about like how do you spend your time and when do you spend your time, and blocking out time for the most important things. Because you can continue to go down the path of just like being on the wheel, right? Of like, I need to do this, I need to do this because I need to get my business off the ground. But if you're not stopping and taking the time to, number one, take care of yourself, number two, to take care of the people around you that you love, to number three, be doing the things that you love, then you can't show up and be as good as you possibly can be for building your company. So, and it's a hard thing for a lot of entrepreneurs to do, which is to step back and step away for a little bit at chunks of time to just kind of recalibrate and refocus on whatever that means, whatever that means for you to take care of yourself. I think it's really, really, really important, and not to beat yourself up over it, to say, you know what, I'm taking half a day off, or I'm going to go for a week. I have to go and plug and I'm going to completely do nothing, or I'm going to just go and spend time with my family. I'm going to take my kid to, to the park, or whatever it is that you need to do to feel, more replenished. And I think that that's really important, not to beat yourself up over having a life
Right.
and
Right.
being able to do the things that you want to do, so you can come back and be more focused when you're doing what you're doing with your work. And the other thing is that you can get really burnt out when you're not leaning on other people, when you're not saying, hey, I need some help here. Because a lot of times we want to take it all on ourselves and say we can do it all. We're like super people. But we're all just people, and we all have needs. And the more that we can, again, lean on people that have, complementary skills to us, it takes a little bit burden off of yourself.
Mm,
So whenever you start to feel like you're burning out, I think that's the time when you have to go, okay, I need
mm.
to talk to somebody about this. And to
Yes.
make it like what do I need to do, because I'm burning out, like I'm spinning and I don't know why I'm spinning.
Mm,
And sometimes you just need an outside perspective to
mm.
say, okay, this is what needs to happen. Like maybe you just need to take a little pause and like recalibrate.
Yeah, I completely agree. Having that reflective time, because we can get like we're hamsters on the wheel, just running, running, running. So having some reflective time to what's most important, in my life, and what am I going to say yes to? What am I going to say no to? I think a big thing that I found is the people that we work with are good people. They're good-hearted people, and one of the stumbling blocks is, gosh, I don't want to say no.
Mm,
Yeah.
But you just need to say yes to the best things, and it's okay to say no to good things.
mm.
We call it the hug and push. If somebody comes to you, like, I love what you're doing, I just really support you, but my time's committed elsewhere, and it's okay. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it is okay. So that's part of it. And then, like you said, Will, is finding somebody that's been on the path before you, who you look up to and admire. Um, Spend time with those people,
Mm.
and that learn from their wisdom.
That's good. That's good. Okay, well, there's a variety of things we could talk about, but I think at this point I'd love to just hear final words. Any thoughts to especially the entrepreneurs, but there are, there's good little bit of investors listening in too, that I'm maybe taking stock on some of this. I know I'm feeling reflective and convicted a bit based on everything that the two of you are saying, because there's an immense amount of wisdom. In fact, I can't overstate the amount of wisdom the two of you have just shared in this short podcast episode, that everybody listening in, or those the few of you that watch, this is worth listening to again. In fact, if I were to go back to my 20-year-old self, I would say go listen to that episode 3 times and start listening to why there's a lot of things not said that are contributing to what the two of you have said, that is really valuable for all humans, but especially those with the pathologic condition to go be an entrepreneur. So, any final words? Any last thoughts?
Well, I think, and you brought up investors, right? Well, one of the first things that investors are looking at in founders are the founders. I mean, it's like the number one on the list of when you're evaluating a company is, who are the founders? Um, why are they doing what they're doing? What is their passion? Who's the team?
Mm,
That's number one.
yeah,
Do they have longevity to make it
yeah,
through?
yeah.
And then it's like, okay, now what is the product? What is the service? What is the marketability, and all of that, the financials? You go down that
Hmm.
path. But number one inevitably is people. So don't forget that that is so important
Mm,
in every aspect of business, especially if you're a founder and you are seeking funding and you are seeking investment, you are seeking help and resources and growing your company. Who is your team? And make sure that that team is the most stellar that you want it to be. and that it is diverse, and that you are bringing in the best of the best to complement each other underneath the same vision, values, and mission. And that's how you win.
I like that.
And something that just came to my mind that seems maybe a little far afield, but I think it's really important is have compassion for others. I mean, recognize that that's probably more important than anything that you do is having compassion for others. And it really underlines that. I think why that the GEEK values resonate when Laura's been out telling people, it's like, I want to be part of that. Because underneath, like generosity, kindness, empathy, even excellence is this compassion for others. And you're going to be the best leader you can be if you truly care about your team. You care about the other leaders, you care about the people you hire, you want them. Because really, the other thing about being a great leader is once you've become a great leader on your own, is you develop other great leaders in your company, right? And so you really have to care about them. You have to care about their well-being and helping them to be the best they can be too. So
amazing. Well, thank you both. Where can people find you online to continue the conversation? What's the best way to reach the both of you?
Well, just you have my email address.
You want me to give your email address in the show notes, or what's the best way?
I guess somebody wants to reach me.
Okay.
Yeah, or M&L Advisors online too. So
okay, I'll link to that.
Okay.
How about you, Laura?
Yeah, you can find me through Prota Ventures, protaventures.com.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, thank you both. This is very, very, very special, super important conversation topic that is worth an immense amount of reflection. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, a couple quick things before you go. Number one, I have a general newsletter where I write about technology and startups and health science and teaching people to code. And I write about a variety of different subjects that we talk about on this show. So if you go to wclittle.com, there you'll be able to subscribe, and you'll also be able to subscribe to particular topics. If you're just interested in one or a few of them, you'll be notified right when I publish new content in those areas. Number two, my partners and I at Prota Ventures have a portfolio company called Startup Rocket. If you go to startuprocket.com, there you'll be able to receive coaching guides and customize an operations framework for you and your team and your advisors to be on the same page in terms of what is the appropriate next step for you and your entrepreneurial journey. And finally, if you wouldn't mind leaving a review anywhere that you have listened to this podcast or watched this podcast, it'd be super helpful to help those who might be interested in consuming this content as well. Thank you.